I already know. I already know. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're wondering. You know, where have I been? Where the podcast episodes been? I said I was back last time. Is he gonna say he's back this time? Is he gonna leave us again? Are any movies out there worth watching? How is he doing? I know. I already know. But I'm gonna keep it short. I'm not gonna waste your time. Just know that I didn't give up. I'm not quitting. Those who know already know. So for the time being, I may not explain a lot. If you would like to know more, make sure you go and follow my Twitch at twitch.tv/domogary. That's DOMOGARY. And without further ado, I am your host, your editor, your creator, your producer, executive producer, your best boy, your first, your last, and most importantly, your everything. I go by the name of Dominique. I am the host of the Domtrap. Today, we will be discussing a few films, not really many. I'm going to save some for later because I guess I'll say that I'm back, I guess. And just a quick synopsis. If you've seen that picture of the boxer and he's like in the corner and he's like on the chair or on the stool rather, and he like has a bottle of water, he's like, all right, it's time to fight these hands or this brain. And then like the next panel is like him looking defeated and then the brain with like hands sprouting out of it. And he's just like, he's got his head down. He's like, darn, brain got hands. That's how it's been for me. My brain got hands. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna leave it at that. But yeah. I hope that all is well. I hope that your family's well. I hope that you're mental, most importantly, as well. I hope that you are working towards that promotion or that job, or things are looking up in your life, all that good stuff. I hope that you missed me. I think that's one of the things I hope. I hope that you missed me. I hope that my absence was felt, you know. I hope that, I hope y'all didn't forget about me, for real. So thank you for all of you for coming here and, you know, tuning in and listening and showing love and giving your constructive and deconstructive criticism. You know who you are. Shout outs to new and old listeners alike. Hello, or welcome to the YouTube channel, whichever one you see this on. Welcome to the Domtrap. And yeah, just buckle up. I think we're gonna have a great time. I have been thinking a lot about this whole thing, so we'll see how things go from here. You know, we'll see how things transpire from here. But without further ado, I know it's been a while, a lot of films to talk about, so I figured that we'd start off with a big one that came out this season, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Now, when this film was announced, I was excited. When it was announced that it would be somewhat of a horror film, I was even more excited. When I seen that Scott Derrickson was coming back, I was even more excited. I was thinking to myself, what could actually go wrong with this film? But then Scott Derrickson left. And Sam Raimi came aboard. And I was excited again because if you don't know, Sam Raimi did the 2002 Spider-Man movie, as well as Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3. He's also done Evil Dead. I love Evil Dead. He's done it. So I'm like, okay, Scott Derrickson out. Cool. Sam Raimi in. Cool. Still excited for the film to see what they do. Still excited to see how the story goes from here. Let's see some multiverse stuff. Let's see some cool action scenes and get some cool story elements with everything. But, yeah. I will say this before I start actually getting into things, because, you know, with me being who I am and this being a Marvel/Disney production, and if you've listened to the podcast before, you know how I feel about Disney, this multi-billion-dollar company. I have a love-hate relationship with them. Sometimes I love to hate them. Sometimes I hate that I love them so. But there were things that they were actually able to achieve. They were able to achieve the multiverse, which at first sounded scary and people were like, how are they actually going to do this? But they actually did it. They actually were like, hey, we have established enough story within this universe. Let's kind of branch out to other universes and see what they've been up to, see what they've been doing. And maybe we could bring some films from those other universes into this, and then, have two different things. Not everything needs to take place in the same universe. That's just, I don't want to say it's redundant, but it's kind of redundant. But when it comes to this movie, though, when it comes to the story elements, the casting, the action scenes, some of the CG, I enjoyed. But with that being said, there were also moments that I didn't enjoy as much, rather. Even story elements. I want to say I was about 60-40 split with the story elements. There's about 60% that I enjoyed and 40% that I either didn't enjoy or I thought that could have been executed a little bit better. There were things that happened that I didn't really care for, and there were things that I was like, okay, I see the vision. Let's keep it going though, because the pacing is, not all there. But overall, as a film, I think it succeeded in what it needed to do, with it being one, a Marvel movie, two, a Marvel movie that is bringing a lot of people into the multiverse, and three, a Benedict Cumberbatch Doctor Strange movie. It succeeded in those three things. Speaking of Benedict Cumberbatch, he is absolutely great in the role of Doctor Strange. I absolutely love him. I will hate to see him be replaced. This movie even solidified that even more, with him being basically different people, but the same character. And I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. He's an actor that knows how to act. We have a lot of actors that don't really know how to act, but he knows what to do with what he's been given. And you can tell that he had a lot of fun with his role. He didn't take everything as seriously as he did in Doctor Strange 1. Granted, that may just be because of the character. Maybe the character's been here for a while and, we've gotten used to it, but he doesn't seem to be taking everything as seriously as his character once has. So yeah, he really had fun with this role. Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch. Now, this was a role that kind of felt like a step back, considering what we've gotten already with WandaVision and Avengers Age of Ultron. It's like, with her turning into the villain in this story, things just kind of reversed as far as what they've already been setting up. And it hurts a little bit. WandaVision kind of showed us that this is a hurt woman who has lost her imaginary husband and children, and she's not okay in the head. This movie is just that again, but it's not done as well, because it's a movie rather than a 6-episode series. So there's not enough time to reestablish these things. So in a way, this movie overall feels like a revenge flick. It's kind of like you can kind of pick a team. If you want to be evil for this movie, you can. If you want to be with the good guys, you can. You don't have to pick a side. The evil is not entirely evil, but the good is almost entirely good, to a certain extent. The good is good in a way that they're trying to get something done, but they get it done in some of the dumbest ways, where a lot of things really don't make a ton of sense, but the movie has the movie, It was, I want to say it was pretty fun watching a hero get to be the villain. We're so used to the heroes being the morality gods. They can do no wrong. We got our Iron Man's who's Iron Man. We have our Captain America who's Captain America. There's just a little bit, it's a little bit different seeing someone that we've seen as like, they were bad at first, and then they got a change of heart. She fell in love. I don't want to say she fell out of love. Her husband's stone was ripped out of his head. She was hurt. Like, we've seen her go through a lot of pain. But in this movie, it's like her pain turns into anger. And it's like, okay, I can kind of get with this. With this movie, a lot of it just feels like they're just trying to get to the end of the movie. So things don't really make a lot of sense. And it can all be, excused to there being literal multiverses and magic in the film. But it's just like, it could be so much cooler. And shouts out to another film that I'm going to talk about this movie again. I talked about it on my boy Holly's podcast. Shout out to Holly, by the way. Everything Everywhere All at Once. Fantastic movie. If you like a rated R movie, go and see it. It does have some things that aren't really safe for children, but a good movie nonetheless. Film, rather. That one's a film. But there are things done in that movie that, as far as the multiverse goes, that were better done in execution compared to what was done in this film. And this film has a way larger budget than that film. So that's what kind of confuses me a little bit. But at the same time, I understand different minds, different studios. What can we do with a $1 billion corporation that basically has the ability to buy anyone they want to? It's just the small things, I guess. Shout out to Disney. But I will say this, when I first heard of Multiverse of Madness, my mind started wondering. I'm like, okay, we're about to see some absolute craziness. But the end result was somewhat tame. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. But there are several cameos in this film. There are several characters that pop up, and it's like, huh? When you first see the trailer, but when you watch the movie, it's like, oh? And that's how I felt. For example, if you've seen the trailer, then you know that Patrick Stewart's Professor X shows back up in this film. And he hasn't been in an MCU film. He was just in the X-Men Fox films. So when he shows up here, I'm expecting something. I love Patrick Stewart, so I'm expecting something to be done. But that wasn't really the case. He was there. He was like, I'm the leader of this group. We have to stop this lady. We have to do what we have to do to stop her. But their crew gets wiped out in 10, 15 minutes flat, if even that. And it's just like, you kind of led us up to believe that these dudes were going to do something just to absolutely not really do much, but get killed in humorous ways. But I was like, okay, I get it. You want to mess with us. You don't want to give us exactly what we want. Sam Raimi did do the movie, so it's like, of course, we weren't going to get exactly what we wanted. But still, give us something, And I get it. It might be played for laughs. It really was played for laughs. I think I heard a few people chuckle in the theater. But besides that, it was kind of quiet. But yeah. I feel like with this movie, we should have just gotten a lot more cooler set scenes and characters and more development and more character development. For example, Doctor Strange in this film feels like a side character. It doesn't hardly feel like the entire movie is about him. Granted, that may be what they wanted us to believe, but what can we do? What can we do? Multi-billion dollar corporation. Love Disney. Hate Disney. Love to hate Disney. Hate that I love Disney. America Chavez was insanely rushed in this movie. I wish that her character had a little bit more to do. I just wish she was really just overall set up a little bit better in this film. Just because in the comics, she has a lot more to do. And this, not really so much. She's just a plot device. She's a character to come in to change the entirety of the MCU, which she does in a sense, but it's not really interesting, is what I'm getting at. She's just there to be there. There's not much setup. Her backstory is kind of whack. Then again, they may just be setting that up later. Yeah, it's kind of sad that the cameos and the surprises were a little bit better than she was in the film. This movie's a 7 out of 10. It's a 7 out of 10. I was teetering on a 6 or a 7, but I think I'm leaning towards a 7 because I did enjoy the movie. I did enjoy myself watching it. I just feel like maybe my expectations were a little bit too high. Maybe things just weren't as good as they were made out to be. But that's just where I'm at with it. 7 out of 10 for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. But if you have seen the Marvel movies and you haven't seen this one, I do recommend seeing this one because why not? The next film I'd like to get into is the Tom Cruise movie of the summer. Maybe the movie of the summer, Top Gun Maverick. Now, with this one, I did watch the original Top Gun a week before I saw Top Gun Maverick, just because I'd never seen it. But I've heard so many good things about it, and I was like, okay, what is there that I'm missing? So I watched the movie, and I thought it was okay. I think the first Top Gun is okay. Some of you may have grown up watching it. You have that nostalgic feeling when you watch it. Me, not so much. But I thought it was an okay movie, considering it came out almost 40 years ago. But it's like one of the most 1980s type of movies that I've probably ever seen in my life. From the way that things are shot, to the shot composition, to the cinematography, to the music. Everything is just screaming 80s at me. And I'm like, I know nothing about this time period. So when I saw that, Top Gun Maverick was finally coming out, I was excited because it had been delayed time and time again. I think it was originally supposed to come out in 2020. And I was even excited for it then. I was like, okay, when this movie comes out, I'm finally going to watch the original Top Gun. But that didn't happen until this past month. Tom Cruise plays Tom Cruise in this film. He's just Maverick. He's just Tom Cruise. You could swap Tom Cruise out with just about any of his other characters that he plays in anything else except for Tropic Thunder, and he would still be Tom Cruise. And there's nothing wrong with that because Tom Cruise does Tom Cruise really, really well. But I love this movie so much. When it comes to a film doing what it was supposed to do, this might be the best film to just ever do that unapologetically. It just gets your butt in a seat and entertains you for about 2 hours. That's about it. When it comes to the supporting characters, Miles Teller he plays Rooster, who is basically, well, he's not basically, but he is Goose's son from the first movie. And he does a good job. He does a good job for what he's given. He's not really given a whole lot to do, but overall, he does a good job with everything. The other support characters are just support characters. They're just people with faces and bodies that you are supposed to care about because they're all going on this mission. They don't have to have this big, deep backstory about their parents or what their reasoning for, being in these jets. They don't have any of that. They don't need any of that, which is why I love this movie even more. They spend time on the things that matter. They spend time with Maverick. They spend time with a cameo / older character from the original movie. That stuff was like, it was the sweet spot for me. It was fantastic. They spent time with the dog fights and, just the overall jet flying. And it was just a sight to see. And it was great listening to it. The sound design for this film is really well. And I didn't even see it in IMAX. I wish I would have seen it in IMAX, but it was really, really in depth. You could tell they spent a lot of time with the sound design, with the visuals, because everything almost looks practical. But they did a really good job with this film. It's paced well. You know what's going on. You have a great sense of time. Granted, there's what made me laugh was that there's a character in this film that pops up and I'm like, wait a minute, who is she? Where is this lady? But I understand what they were doing. They had to have a romantic interest for Tom Cruise because Tom Cruise is Tom Cruise in every movie. So he has to have a romantic interest. And I was like, okay, I'm okay with that. I'm okay. Just as long as you show me a great action scene after this, I will not complain. And that's exactly what happens. There are some really good action scenes. You get to learn along with the characters. They're like playing volleyball outside on the beach with their shirts off and good music playing. So everything is all right in this movie. It's just a movie. Like I said, it's one of the most moviest movies that I've seen in a while. It just does exactly what it was set out to do. This movie could have really come out in any decade and it would be revered as probably one of the best films of all time to some people. Not to me. It's a 9 out of 10 to me. But like I said, the reason I rate it so high is because it did exactly what it needed to do. It needed to get people in the seats. I sold a bunch of tickets. I think it's made over $1.3 billion last time I checked, which is a good bit of money for a Top Gun movie, especially a Top Gun sequel that's been delayed time and time and time again. I'm not mad at it. I will be watching this movie once it comes out on digital and Blu-ray and all that good stuff. I will be cranking the volume up. I will be listening to that 7.1 surround sound just because I missed out on that IMAX experience. So, Top Gun Maverick, 9 out of 10 film, movie of the summer, possibly one of the best films to come out this year. Definitely top 5. Definitely top 5. If you haven't seen this movie yet, I highly recommend it. Even if you haven't seen it, I would recommend seeing it. If you haven't seen the original, it's not really needed to watch this movie. But if you like to have a little bit more backstory about Maverick and how things got to be what they are, then sure. But this movie does a good job of not really having to hold your hand with a lot of it. Highly recommend this one. I highly recommend it. It makes a lot of sense why. But the next film I'd like to talk about is a horror film. And I'm going to be honest. It is July 18th at the time of this recording. And I feel like it's been a weak year for horror films. Granted, we have had some releases as far as horror films go. We have had X, which I thought was a good film, but it's something that it's a film that I don't see myself watching over and over again. It was just kind of like a one-time popcorn movie, kind of whatever, you know? Maybe I'll watch it next year. Maybe if I'm just in the mood for it. Maybe I'll watch it before the prequel comes out. The sequel prequel, really. But yeah, this year has been not great. We haven't really gotten like a Saw movie. Scream came out this year, and I've only seen it twice, if that makes any sense. I love Scream movies, but I've only seen this new one twice. So it's been kind of a sleeper year for these horror movies this year, but one that I hope will not be slept on is The Black Phone. It's directed by Scott Derrickson, that, you know, like I said earlier, he directed Doctor Strange, but he's also directed both Sinister films. He's directed The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Like I said earlier, he was supposed to direct this new Doctor Strange, which I would still like to see what would have come of that, but that's not happening. But this movie is like really good. It was really good. I had high expectations when I originally saw the first trailer last year because this was another movie that got delayed. But the closer and closer we got to release, the more excited I became. Once I started seeing trailers again, I'm like, oh yeah, this movie was supposed to come out last year. It didn't. Now I'm excited. Let's see why this movie got delayed for so long. But it's a horror and a thriller film, but it's definitely more horror than thriller. There are children in this film. And the movie is basically about this guy who wears this mask. He has this black van and he goes around abducting children, and you don't really know what happens to them until you watch the film. But he always leaves like a black balloon behind. So there's like a paper trail kind of, but they still don't know where this guy is or who he is or why he's doing what he's doing, besides being a nasty freak man. But the main character in this film is Finney, and he has very strong protagonistic energy. I know protagonistic isn't a word, but he has that energy where he's like, you look at him and you're like, oh yeah, he's the main character of a horror movie about kids. Kind of like Finn Wolfhard, same thing. Finney is just a kid who has a sucky life. His dad sucks, his mom's not around. I think, yeah, his mom, yeah, she passed away. And he has a little sister. And his little sister is kind of like a rude, crude Jesus lover. So she is definitely a standout in this film when it comes to the children actors. She has a moment where she's talking to Jesus and she says some things that made me laugh. So really interesting little girl playing the sister. But the dad is really what made me scratch my head, because he would do things in the movie. He would have these mannerisms and I'm like, he seems super familiar. Where have I seen him at? And it turns out that this actor is the same actor, and I also think he did the mocap in God of War for Baldur, which I've just recently played again on the PlayStation 5, which is a fantastic game. I absolutely loved it. But I was wondering what reminded me of this guy, and it turns out, yes, he's Baldur. I just played the game where he's a character. So I was like, okay, cool. But one difference between this movie and a lot of other movies, horror movies in particular, about children is that, you know, in some of these older movies, the children are kind of happy-go-lucky. Things always go well for them. They're smiling and everything. But Finney hardly smiles. Like I said, his life is crap. His sister gets a spanking in this film. And I know it sounds terrible to say, but the spanking was probably one of the best spankings I've ever seen, like, in a film. Like, it was just like, it seemed so real, from the sound design to this, his sister screaming. It just sounded like, oh my goodness, you know, this is an actual whooping, is what it felt like. Very viscerally shot with that scene. But that's definitely your trigger warning. If you don't like any of that, stay away from this film. If you don't like films where children are getting kidnapped, stay away from it. But it almost has like a Stranger Things kind of vibe, because there's also like there's, you know, with these movies, there's always a supernatural element to it. So the supernatural elements are where this movie kind of shines for me. It's, as far as where the visuals go, they do some cool things visually that are like, okay, I see what's going on here. I like this. Now let's get to it. He's learning things. Let's see what he's learning. You know, it's really exciting. It's a really exciting movie. Granted, like I said, this movie has some scenes that are they're scary. They're full of tension, but it's kind of what I was looking forward to this year. I was looking for that movie that was going to kind of creep me out a little bit, and I don't get creeped out easily, but there were scenes that I was like, oh wow, they went there. They did this. Wow. And I didn't expect it. But these jump scares in this movie, they don't come often, but when they arrive, you feel it. I know the first one came at a moment where I was like super immersed in the movie. I was paying all of my attention to this scene. And then there's just this ding, and you see some things visually, and I was like, oh, they almost got me. But I'm on the other side of the theater, I'm like hearing drink spill and popcorn everywhere, and I'm like, yeah, they got everybody else too. But after that, I kind of sat up, because I was like, yeah, I'm not getting scared again. But there were like about 2 or 3 more that I like kind of was like, you know, I kind of shrugged my shoulders with, because they were that visceral, and it just worked. This film really just worked for me. And it's an 8 out of 10 film. If you're looking for a thriller this year that might, you know, scare your socks off, if you're looking for a horror this film, this might really be the best one that's come out this year so far. At the time of this recording, July 18th, 2022, this may be the best horror movie to come out this year so far. I don't know what else is coming out horror-wise this year, but you know me, I will be watching them. But if you're not a fan of horrors and thrillers, this movie's not really going to do you any favors at all. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. Like I said, I didn't want this one to be long or anything. I really just wanted to let you know that I'm still here. I didn't give up. I'm not quitting. Expect more episodes in the future. I feel so wrong saying that, but I'm serious this time. Expect more episodes in the future. Expect more Twitch streams. And once again, if you haven't followed me over there on Twitch, please do so at twitch.tv/DomoGary. And that's twitch.tv/DOMOGARY. Yeah. But like I said, I'm finally like in a better place. And I feel like it's time to get some more content out to you guys and not kind of shy away from you all, you know? Yeah. I appreciate each and every last one of you for listening. And like I said earlier, I hope that you're doing well. Hope that your mental's going well. Hope that things are going well for you. I hope that your family is doing well. You know that I care about all of you, each and every last one of you, especially the ones that have been checking in on me. Oh my gosh. I appreciate all of y'all, man. Even if it's just like for a quick laugh or just to say, yo, dog, I'm just checking in on you. Holly, you know who you are. Greg, you know who you are. Justin, you know who you are. Jennifer, you know who you are. Just, I really do appreciate every last one of you. I know the guys might be listening, but shouts out to the guys over at RJCXD. Golly, man. All of y'all, Lex, man. God, man. I really do love all of y'all. I may not tell y'all that all the time, but I do love all of y'all. And before I go, I just want to say that just make sure that y'all know that I care about y'all. And if y'all are going through anything like I was, then just know that I see you getting out of this situation. I mean, you made it this far. You can only go but up. But with that being said, it's been your host, director, editor, creator, producer, executive producer, and most importantly, your first, your last, your everything. Shout out to y'all for listening. I'll see y'all back in the trap very, very soon if I don't see y'all in the streams. Peace.